Welcome back to NBA Cinema, man. So we got to talk about Draymond Green and Rasheed Wallace getting into it on the internet. And these guys, it's been a lot of back and forth about who would win between the 17 Golden State Warriors and the '04 Pistons. And first and foremost, you're going to look at errors, you're going to look at rules. But if you look at the rosters and the way that the games play, man, it's so vastly different nowadays than it was back in '04. Um, it's almost like two different games, right? The more physical game, obviously, you look at the Pistons and their roster, and I look at like in this era what a Rasheed Wallace would have averaged points wise. It would be just totally different. He would have been probably a mid 20 score. You look at Rasheed's skill set, in his prime, he could shoot from distance. He could shoot with both hands. You remember he could shoot left-handed threes. He had a bank shot, very athletic, finish over the top of people. So, but he played within the confines of a team back then. And he never scored, what a lot of us thought he would score coming out of North Carolina. Tim Duncan went on to the NBA to become that guy. But Rasheed Wallace was a really good player, really good post defender too. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, and then you have players like Chauncey Billups. In him and Steph in a series, do you really see Steph just dominate and prime Chauncey Billups in a series? So I was looking at a lot of the matchups, and both teams obviously gonna feel like they gonna win, right? They definitely gonna win. Now Draymond kind of grew up in that Detroit Pistons locker room, and Rasheed Wallace took some responsibility for Draymond and getting those technicals and things like that because Draymond was about to break, ironically enough, Rasheed Wallace's record with getting technical fouls. Let's take a listen to that.
That's our fault. And when I say our, that's my fault. That's Ben Wallace's fault. That's Chauncey's fault. That's Rip Hamilton's fault. Tayshawn's fault. That's Corliss's fault. Everybody in that locker room, because he grew up in our locker room. One of his best friends was the son of the GM. Mm-hmm. So he was around us, practice in the locker room, after games, before games. So he heard the different language, and we all know it's a different language when the cameras is not there.
So, that was just kind of a look into the relationship, that Draymond and Rasheed Wallace have, in the history. They've had Draymond since he was a kid still, and so he looks up to these guys. We're probably gonna get an episode on one of the others' podcasts, going back and forth and laughing about it and everything, because these are really two guys that's close, but it did get a little heated online today. But we're gonna look at what was said to get to where we were. I said today, but yesterday, whenever they were going at it online. Let's listen to these clips.
Which is home of the Detroit Pistons. Y'all lost to the Pistons in '04. And by the way, them my big bros. I love them. I respect them. But they scored 70 points a game. We would have mopped them.
You would have mopped them too?
They scored 70 points.
Let me see.
One of y'all games was 70 to 67 final. That's insane.
We have an NBA record that will never be broken.
What's that?
When we kept, I think it was either 6 or 7 teams under 70 points. In this scoring era.
Yeah, that never get broken.
That will never get broken again. We were defense. We hung our hat on defense. We would have beat the shit out of them. And I'm going to address that because Draymond said this bullshit.
Draymond would have killed you.
You crazy as
Man,
fuck.
You can't guard Draymond Green.
He said this bullshit the other day on him and Shaq's podcast. We would have beat the shit out of them because, for the simple fact, they couldn't match up with us at any position. Steph's not a defender. He would have had to guard Rip. How many screens Rip coming off of?
Whatever the max you can have in the game.
Or whoever they would have tried to put at point. Whoever their point would have been too little for Chauncey. Right?
They'll put Clay on him. Clay 6'7". You say
Okay,
Clay
so
can't guard Chauncey.
who's going to guard Tay?
Kevin Durant.
Wiggins. KD.
If it's 2017,
Oh,
it's
this
Kevin
KD.
Durant. Yeah.
Not happening. They all too. They about
You
the
said
same.
KD can't guard Tayshaun, who averaged 9.
No.
Nah, come on now.
Yeah, I'm saying that
And
for
you
back
said Tayshaun
for
can
back
guard
then.
Well, he just
averaged
outscored
30.
him,
Man,
Like,
yes, because Tayshaun was an underrated scorer. See, a lot of people don't know
How you underrated scoring your team average 86 points?
because he was an underrated scorer. He led the year he was at Kentucky. He led them in scoring. I think it was like
no.
26 or something.
That's right.
Everybody can score in college. We all can score in college. I'm talking about in the pros. Y'all averaged
Okay.
86. He averaged 9.
Okay,
So a
and
big
we
game
still
for him
won.
is 12.
So we still won.
So after that, it spilled on social media, and Draymond quoted Clutch Point sharing the video of Rasheed Wallace that I just showed, and he said, "She, we would have smacked y'all. Y'all was scoring 72 points per game. That's not winning a half, and we putting you in them big A forces in every pick and roll. Let's see you move your feet. That one ring, great though, big bro. We all appreciated it." And so Rasheed Wallace caught wind of that. He at Draymond Green and quoted his tweet. He said, "First and foremost, this isn't a beef. Draymond is my little bro who I am proud of. So no matter what we say, it will never be personal. So don't try to blow this up because we both know how cats do. Dre, you already know how we got down on that squad. Don't matter the rules, yours or ours. Y'all as a team were too effing little. You can ask more than half your teammates who we played against on that roster, and we can keep it with that year because no way y'all could F with any of us in our prime. At any point, I can come on your show, or you can come visit mine, and we can go through the roster man for man, coach for coach." So that's what he said. And when I look back at these rosters, man, it's all just speculation and talk, right? It's all speculation and talk. But looking at the teams, I mean, and there's some advantages for both teams, right? I mean, when Rasheed Wallace talked about the screens Rip gonna come off of, you got to think about the screens that Clay and Steph's gonna come off of. So that kind of goes both ways, and Rip or whoever that is would be equally as tired too, is what I'm saying. Like it'll be a lot of screens on both ends of the court. You know, Katie and Tayshaun. I could see Tayshaun frustrating KD a little bit on offense. I could see that. KD was a big time offensive player though, and I'm basing it off of how he defended T Mac, right? You remember Orlando was up in that series, and then when they inserted Tayshaun Prince, he frustrated T Mac enough for them to win the series. You know what I'm saying? So I'm basing it off of that. Just a prototype that's similar to KD. Got some of the same length and can shoot over the top of people and stuff like that. And Tayshaun did a great job with his long arms. Um, but saying KD couldn't guard Tayshaun, I mean Tayshaun could get buckets, but he wasn't like the offensive threat that KD is. I don't think nobody in their right mind is saying that. I'll say Ben Wallace is a possession ender and a possession extender. And what I mean by that is he grabs a lot of offensive rebounds and he grabs a lot of defensive rebounds. So they may get multiple possessions just by having him, prime Ben Wallace on the court. You averaging, I don't know what he averaged that year, but at one point he did average like 14 or 15 boards a night. And so when you have that dynamic on the team, you're getting Chauncey Billups second shots, you're getting Rip. And one thing about Rip is he came off his screens, but a lot of times, he was shooting 2-pointers, and so he had that mid range on lot. And he had a good post game for a thin person. You know what I'm saying? He could get you in the post, but he was wiry strong though by that point. So Rip, he had a lot of game. Trying to think, was Antonio McDyess on the team at that point? He had injuries, but McDyess, again, another body, big body that you could put in there. So I don't know, man. It would be it makes for interesting talk, but it's a lot that goes into the way that the games are played now. At one point, I think back in 17, you had the head fake, jumping to the defender three, and back then you couldn't get no shot off like that, head fake and jump forward into the player. So, I mean, it's a lot of rules that can influence foul calls, outcome of the game. Um, so it's merely speculation. But I like the conversations between the players because they bring up points and they bring up where they feel like their team has the advantage, and that's just a mark of being a competitor. I don't read too deep into it. But I like these type of discussions, man. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time.